The scent of burnt lasagna filled the air as I stood frozen in the kitchen, watching my mother stand over the stove, the fury etched across her face. The bustling sounds of my family carved through the thick tension in the room, laughter echoing from the living room where my brother and sister were probably playing another one of their ridiculous board games, oblivious to the chaos brewing in the kitchen. I felt my heart racing, caught between wanting to shout that dinner was ruined and just standing there, silent, hoping the lingering bitterness from the last family argument would subside before the dinner table. It was another typical Friday night at home, but with every tick of the clock, I could feel the weight of our family secrets pressing more and more against my chest. "Mia, can you please just find the oven mitts?" My mother barked, her voice sharp as the knife she was using to cut the burnt edges of the lasagna. She was always in such a hurry to fix everything, as though deep down she believed that if the meal was perfect, it would erase all the faults in our family. My hands began to shake as I rummaged through the kitchen drawers, feeling the cool metal of utensils against my skin, the crumbs of past dinners beneath my fingers. I had no idea where the oven mitts had gone. "The black ones, Mia. You know where they always are," she snapped, shooting me a pointed look that made me go pale. Every time she looked at me like that, I felt my insides twist. "I thought we agreed that I was going to handle the lasagna this time," I mumbled, barely finding the courage to let my voice rise above a whisper. "If you did it your way, we would end up with a burnt mess like this." Her response was like a slap. I let out a shaky breath, the heat of her words wrapping around me tighter than the kitchen's rising temperature. I wanted to tell her that this wasn't just about dinner. It hadn't been just about dinner for a long time. My mother refused to see me really see me. I was constantly stuck in my siblings' shadows, the one who wasn't favored or pampered, the one who had to step aside during family decisions. The additional burden they all wished was simply mine to carry. As the harsh smell of charred edges filled my nostrils, my anger simmered. "You know what? Forget it. Maybe I won't help next time." I turned away, my voice cracking on the last word, my heart racing again for my next move. I could not believe I was getting so upset over a stupid dinner. My sister's laughter erupted from the living room suddenly, like a trigger. With her bubbly energy, she always seemed to have the attention of my parents, their giggles bouncing off the walls, pushing me further away from their warmth. I glanced at the family photos adorning our fridge, snapshots where my sister was always smiling, everything perfectly captured in color. I felt a lump forming in my throat, remembering the time my parents had promised we would all go to that amusement park together. But in the end, it was just them taking my siblings without me, leaving me with my grandfather who could barely hold a conversation. "Are you going to stand there staring at the oven or actually help?" My mother's voice cut through my reminiscing. I took a deep breath, made my way around her, and found the oven mitts behind the spice rack. "Here," I said, flinging them toward her. "I can't do everything for you, you know." The words slipped out before I could stop them, filled with a bitter edge that tasted sharp against my tongue. She snatched the mitts out of the air. "You better watch your tone, Mia. I can only imagine how many years you spent perfecting that attitude." "What does that even mean?" My voice raised despite my effort to choke it back, and I could feel my cheeks burning with frustration and unshed tears. "You only see what you want to see, don't you? I am tired of being the one that isn't acknowledged. Look at your brother and sister. They're more than capable of handling their own responsibilities. You should learn to take a page out of their book instead of whining about everything." It was like a dagger, the way my mother dismissed my feelings, the rejection screaming louder than the sizzling butter on the stove. I felt like I was drowning in a world where I had to fight for the barest morsel of attention and approval. It hurt so deeply that I didn't even notice the tremor in my hands as I fought back tears. "Maybe if I did things your way I would be happier," I shot back, almost impulsively, knowing how dangerous it was to show any hint of my true feelings. "What do you think is going to change?" The challenge in my mother's eyes sent a shiver down my spine. How could she belittle me like this, choosing them over me as always? "I am so tired of being the one who always picks up after everyone else's messes. You treat me like I am invisible." The words slipped out, and for a moment the air went silent. I could see the realization flicker across her face, a brief moment where I thought I had broken through her hard shell. But it vanished too quickly, replaced by her determined glare. "If you are not going to help, then just get lost. We do not have time for your dramatics." Her words felt like a punch, sending pain reverberating through my chest. I bit my lip, desperately trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. It was always like this, a constant cycle of pushing back and knocking down until I was the one hidden in the corner, feeling lost in my own family. "I'm done with this," I yelled again, clenching my fists at my side. My resolve was slowly solidifying. I would not be a doormat anymore. I was sick of being overlooked, the unwanted child always sidelined. "Whatever, go enjoy your perfect dinner, I'm leaving." The moment I turned to storm out, my sister's laughter abruptly stopped. "What's going on in here?" She poked her head in, her eyes wide and curious, breaking the moment like ice shattering beneath my weight. I felt trapped under scrutiny, a deer caught in headlights. My mother shot me a warning glance that told me to play nice, but the fire inside me longed for a chance to unleash all the bottled-up tension. "Oh, nothing," my mother said, her voice too cheery, the effort almost painful. "Just girl talk, come back in a minute and we will start again, okay?" Girl talk seems like something more serious was afoot, don't you think, Mia? My sister squinted as though scrutinizing a puzzle box. Did you burn something again? I wanted to scream that I was so much more than a mistake waiting to happen. Relax, it's not a big deal, I replied, forcing my voice low, trying to swallow the hurt. But again, why did I have to be the one that felt this way? You can't just walk out like that, my sister interjected, her tone sharpening. We all agreed to help make dinner tonight. My stomach churned with injustice, the familiar taste of betrayal I had swallowed too many times. Sorry if I don't fit into your perfect little mold. Maybe I'm sick of pretending everything is fine. Why are you being so overdramatic? She rolled her eyes, mimicking our mother's dismissive tone. I clenched my jaw, my insides raging. Because I feel like I'm left behind while you all frolic in your perfect family. I saw confusion wash over my sister's face, but then she shrugged it off, her laughter from earlier coming back, somehow managing to peel away at the edges of my pain. Come on. You know Mom only cares about making everything nice for us. You should try enjoying it. No, that's exactly the point. She cares about the dinner, the appearance, everything except how I feel. I was shaking now, my hands trembling and my heart racing faster than I could keep up. You just don't understand. I do understand, you just refuse to see how hard she works for this family. I could feel the anger rolling off me, threatening to spill like unfinished business. I know she does, but maybe she is focusing too much on everything that isn't us. My sister blinked, and for a moment I thought I could see a glimmer of understanding in her eyes, but then a laugh escaped her, lighthearted and mocking. You really are overreacting. It's just dinner, Mia. Just dinner. It is never just dinner. My voice echoed in the hallway, filled with every emotion I could muster. You know what? I am done here. I pushed past her, shoving the kitchen door open right into my brother, who stood there, eyes wide in confusion. What is going on? He asked, glancing back and forth between my sister and me. Just the usual, my sister said, flipping her hair back, a wave of confidence swirling around her. I felt so small beside her towering bubble of brightness. It's nothing, really. Mia, my brother said, concern flashing in his eye. What are you trying to prove? That I am worth more than you think. I snapped, pushing past him as well. The world outside was cool, the evening air hitting me like a wave of relief as I stepped outside onto the porch, the wooden boards creaking beneath my feet. I needed to get away from it all, where no one would mock the way I felt or tell me to be quiet. I was done being the quiet one in the family. Slamming the door behind me broke through the laughter echoing behind me, sending the remnants of unwanted noise scattering into the air. I leaned against the porch railing, staring out into the darkening sky as I fought against the tears welling in my eyes. The sky was a deep navy now, the stars beginning to twinkle above, though they seemed far away, just like I felt from my family. My heart was pounding like a drum, but beneath the rhythm lay determination, a spark igniting within me. I had to change the narrative, to reclaim my role, to finally be seen as someone deserving of attention, respect, and love. With each breath, I felt an unrelenting surge of resolve building up inside of me. The next time we all gathered around the dinner table, it would not just be another night filled with charred reminders of what my family thought I should be. No, the next time they would finally see who I really was, starting with the secrets I had uncovered about our inheritance, ones that could turn the tides in my favor. I was ready to rewrite the script and dig deeper into my mother's hidden past. As I took another breath of the crisp night air, a plan began to form in my mind, and I felt a thrill run through me. Maybe this time I wouldn't let anyone choose them over me. I stood by the kitchen counter, the cool marble beneath my palms grounding me as the familiar sounds of my family bustling around the house filled the air. The aroma of my mother's famous lasagna wafted through the room, rich and warm, mixing with the faint scent of rosemary from the herb garden outside. It should have felt comforting, but instead my stomach twisted in knots. The tension that had hung in the air like an unseen cloud since the lawyer's phone call refused to dissipate. My chest tightened as I thought about what the voice on the other end had said the previous week. The inheritance dispute will be finalized next Friday, 4 days away. My father had left a secret behind when he passed, a mystery buried beneath layers of hurt and resentment, and suddenly it seemed everyone in the family had a piece of it. I could hear my brother's voice rising above the others, filled with that same confident bravado that had earned him our father's praise throughout his life. You know, I can't believe you too. The way you talk about Dad, you never even tried to understand him. He was sitting at the table, leaning back in his chair as if he owned the place. I wanted to scream at him. He was the favorite, the one who received everything, while I felt like I was cast in the shadows. I could feel my heart racing as I thought about the lawyer's words, the words that had shattered what little peace remained in our family. My sister, seated across from him, shot back, "Oh, spare me. You act like you are the only one who cared. You were always too busy courting his approval to look at what was happening around you." Her voice dripped with disdain, and I felt every word slice through the air. The tension hung thick and electric. I wished I could just fade into the background, but too much was at stake. "I'm not going to just let you tear him down like this," my brother snapped, his voice rising, and I winced at the anger radiating from his body. I could see his hands clenching into fists, taking on that familiar defensiveness I had come to expect from him whenever anyone brought up the topic of our father. Did he truly believe he was the only one who suffered? I glanced over at our mother, who stood by the oven, her face drawn tight. Her worry lines seemed deeper than normal, and I could tell she was on the verge of tears. "Enough, this isn't the time for this," she said, her voice raw and shaky, but her back remained straight as she carried on stirring the sauce. I opened my mouth to say something, but the anxiety tangled my tongue. Truth was there was something I had to say, a truth I had kept buried for too long, and then I heard it. My sister's voice, steady and cold, slicing through the air like a knife. You both don't even know the half of it. There are secrets, you know. Dad always had secrets. My heart dropped. There it was, the word I had been dreading. The room fell silent. I could feel my stomach lurch, and for a moment I thought all the air had left the room. My brother's face twisted with disbelief. What are you talking about? His voice was incredulous, and I could see the direct challenge in his eyes. It was as if he was daring her to say more. Secrets, my mother echoed softly, her voice trembling. She turned, her face pale, and for a moment she was just a woman caught in the throes of a past she had yearned to forget. What secrets? I tried to swallow the lump forming in my throat. Would I dare step in and reveal the truth? There was an unbearable heaviness, a fear thrumming within me. My fingers trembled against the cool marble surface. I was terrified of how this would shatter our fragile family dynamics even more, knowing full well that my sister had uncovered something in those old boxes of our father's, something that changed everything. I went through his things, my sister continued, crossing her arms defiantly. I found letters that he wrote to someone else, not to Mom but to someone else. He was planning to meet them the week he died. What do you make of that? My heart sank further into my stomach. It felt as if she had swung a clenched fist straight into a fragile glass vase, shattering the facade we had held together for so long. I searched my brother's face, hoping to find a glimmer of doubt, but instead he looked like he was about to explode. No, no way, he yelled, standing up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the tiled floor, shattering the tension with sound. He wouldn't do that, I don't believe you. There was panic in his eyes, and I could sense his denial coiling around him like a snake. He wanted to bury the truth. He wanted to cling to the image of our father that he had crafted in his mind, a perfect parent who had never wavered. Do you think I want this? My sister shot back, her voice laced with rage and hurt. Do you think I wanted to dig into our father's life just to be the one who says this? I spent my whole childhood looking up to him. He was supposed to be our hero. The tension escalated with each exchange, each accusation hitting like gunfire, shattering whatever fragile peace we had tried to maintain. What letters? What have you been hiding? I felt a surge of both anger and fear, an emotional cocktail that left me dizzy. I couldn't contain myself anymore. What do you mean our father was writing to someone else? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. My heart pounded, and I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. My sister's eyes narrowed, and I could see her resolve solidifying as if she was transforming before my very eyes into the fierce creature I sometimes fail to recognize. Letters addressed to someone named Clara, she said slowly, letting the name hang in the air as if it was a live grenade ready to explode. I felt my palms sweat and my heart thundered painfully against my ribcage. The world around us receded as I processed the implications of that name. What did it mean? Who was Clara? My mother turned away from the stove, her hands shaking as she wiped her brow with the edge of her apron. That can't be right. There's no one named Clara. She said it so softly, but I could see the sadness written all over her face. That is not possible. I clenched my fists tightly against the counter, my breath quickening. Suddenly, I felt a deep-seated rage bubbling to the surface. Though I had spent years watching my brother enjoy privileges and accolades that had felt like daggers to my heart, this revelation had turned everything upside down. It wasn't just favoritism or neglect. It was betrayal at a level I had never imagined. What right did he have to resurface now, years later, to haunt us again? The way my brother had always been the golden child, the one Dad's pride, it all felt more unjust than ever. No. My sister challenged, sensing the weakness in my mother's voice. I found the letters along with bank records. These were not just casual exchanges. Some were dated as our father was sick, and others were filled with plans they would make for a life together. It was like he was building a new future. I'm not going to let him take that to the grave without all of us knowing. Her voice turned from anger into determination, like she was tapping into a strength born from years of watching everyone else dictate her reality. I couldn't breathe. This is insane. You are telling me that he left us to chase after someone else. I felt like I was on the verge of exploding from confusion and heartbreak. I thought about the moments he shared with us, the laughter, the hugs, the lessons that felt sacred. Had they been nothing but a facade, designed to keep us from looking too closely? He would have chosen us, he would have. How could you even think that? You are wrong. No, I am not. You have to see the truth. I am trying to tell you the truth. My sister's voice trembled, her frustration blazing in her eyes. I wanted to believe her, but the mere idea forced me to confront everything I had ever known about my father's hold over our family. He was our rock, our guide, our everything, wasn't he? And yet he had secrets. What do you think will happen next? Are you going to air this out at the inheritance meeting? My brother cut in, venom lacing his tones as he glared at both me and my sister. I shrank back, my heart racing, feeling the full weight of our father's legacy arcing over us like a descending curtain. It isn't about the inheritance, and you know it, my sister shouted without hesitation. This is about what he owed us, the truth he stole from us for so many years. It's not just about us anymore. It's about holding him accountable for his choices, for choosing them over us. That hit me like a runaway train. I could feel the gravity of what lay ahead. The brewing storm that was this family would erupt like a volcano, and I had absolutely no idea how it would all end. I need to see those letters, I blurted out, surprising even myself. The realization hit me hard. There was no turning back now. I had to face whatever my father had left behind. I needed to unravel this web of choices that had simmered beneath the surface for so long, like a ghost haunting us, dimly flickering in the periphery of all our memories. Why? My brother scoffed, disbelief breaking his confident facade. So you can side with her? Do you want to just tear the family apart even more? Maybe it needs to be torn apart so we can rebuild. The words came pouring out of me raw and unfiltered. I felt my heart pounding harder, the adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. My eyes locked onto my brother's, determined and unyielding. Where are you going? My sister asked, her voice filled with urgency as I moved, almost unconsciously, toward the steps leading to the attic, where my father had stored so many of his secrets long before death had claimed him. I have to see for myself, I whispered, feeling the chill of the cold wooden steps beneath my feet. I reached the attic door, my mind a whirlwind of emotions and conflicted loyalties. As I turned the knob and pushed the door open, a wave of dust billowed into the air, and for a moment the world faded away. The dim light filtering through the small attic window illuminated the darkness, but it was not comforting, it felt ominous. This space, once an area of laughter and childhood memories, felt like a graveyard of our father's secrets, and I was an unwitting intruder. As I walked into the attic, it felt like I was stepping into another world entirely, one filled with whispers of years gone by. Old boxes lined the walls, piled high with forgotten memories and faded photographs. There it was, the weight of my father's past absorbing all the light. The tension of this family, the hidden resentment, the looming shadows of unspoken truths, all seemed to converge in this one room as I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling with anticipation. I was ready to find out just how deep the betrayal ran. The door clicked closed behind me, leaving nothing but silence, thick, suffocating silence. I scoured through the boxes, pulling at layers of dust and memories as my heart raced. I could not believe it was all leading here to this moment. With each scrap of paper I touched, each cedar scent ripping through the air, I could feel the stakes becoming perilously high. I had no idea how this family drama would unfold, but I was about to lift the veil no matter the cost. And just as I thought I would surely find the answer, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed down the hall and my heart stopped. I froze. Who was coming up here? A sudden feeling of dread washed over me as I realized I might not be the only one hunting for truths this night. My heart raced as I heard a voice call from below. "Mia, where are you?" It was my mother's voice, laced with concern. My throat felt tight as I strained to listen. What would she say when she found out? Would she blame me? I swallowed hard, knowing I wasn't going to back down now, not after everything that had unfolded. I would uncover what my father had left behind. I was determined to get to the truth and reconcile my pain with the secrets long hidden. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a much darker journey, one that would change our family forever. The footsteps grew louder, echoing against the wooden stairs as they approached the attic door. I held my breath, every muscle in my body tense as I prepared for whatever would come next. Would I find redemption, or would it all unravel into a chaos of betrayal? I could feel the air thick with tension the moment I stepped into the dining room. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows through the tall, narrow windows. As I walked toward the table, the familiar scent of my mother's famous lasagna filled the room, but it didn't ease the storm brewing inside me. The yellow light from the chandelier above made everything seem warm and inviting, but all I could focus on was the cold knot in my stomach. There we were, my father, my brother, and my sister, gathered at the table like it was just another Sunday dinner, but I knew better. This was not a normal dinner, not when there was a secret hanging over us like a dark cloud. "Hey, Mia," my sister said, her voice too bright, as if she was trying to overcompensate for what we were all avoiding. She was stirring her salad like it was the most exciting thing in the world, but I could see the way her hands trembled slightly. "You made it just in time. We were wondering if you were going to show up." "Yeah, I wouldn't miss this for the world," I replied, forcing a smile onto my face even as I could feel my heart racing. My brother sat across from me, quietly picking at his food, his eyes darting between my sister and our father. The tension was palpable, and I could practically hear the thoughts racing through their minds, each one a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Our father cleared his throat loudly as he usually did when he wanted everyone's attention. "I want to talk about something important." His voice was steady, but I could detect a slight quiver, a buried nervousness that made my chest tight. The moment I had been dreading was here. I knew exactly what he meant. The inheritance. It loomed over us like a shadow, dark and threatening. We had all received a letter a week ago from the attorney announcing a family meeting to discuss our grandfather's estate. As much as I tried to avoid thinking about it, the fact that my mother had been the closest to my grandfather made me feel like I was standing on shaky ground. "You all know that grandfather passed away last month," my father continued, his voice even more serious. "And his will is, well, it's complicated." I could see my sister's posture go rigid, and I clenched my hands in my lap to keep from shaking. "Complicated how?" My brother interjected, his usually cool demeanor replaced with a hint of impatience. "I think we deserve to know what the deal is. Your grandfather always had unorthodox views on family," my father said slowly, choosing his words carefully. I could hear the discomfort in his voice, and it sent chills down my spine. "He believed in rewarding hard work over blood ties. That money is what makes a family." "What does that even mean?" I could barely keep my voice steady. He was practically a stranger to me. Why would he expect me to earn anything from him when he didn't even bother to know me? I could feel frustration rising, my face flushing hot. I had not only been out of the picture all these years, but I was also left in the dark about the love and the closeness that my siblings had cultivated with him. My mother finally looked up from her plate, her gaze piercing into me like daggers. Mia, you need to be grateful for what you've been given. Some people, well, they never get anything. I could sense the unspoken words hanging in the air, those of families cut off completely, disowned because they didn't meet the expectations laid upon them. It was as if she was blaming me for my own absence in our grandfather's life. My eyes felt wet, but I fought back tears. You have still been given a chance to connect with the rest of us. I would have liked to connect while he was still alive. I spat back, unable to control the anger bubbling within me any longer. I would have liked to be a part of the family instead of feeling like an afterthought. What do you always have to make it about you? My sister shot out, gripping her fork like it was a weapon. Not everything is about your feelings. There was plenty of time for you to reach out, but you chose not to. You think this is my choice. I felt my heart race as I shot back, not able to take her words silently. I wasn't the one who chose to cut me off from their lives. There's nothing I could do. I can see you still have some bitterness, my father commented, trying to steer the conversation back. But that isn't going to help anyone. His body language was tense, hands folded tightly on the table, jaw clenched. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm swirling inside me. What does the will say? My voice had softened, but I could feel the weight of that question pressing down on me. A heavy silence settled in the air. My father looked away, and my brother sighed deeply, pressing his fingers against his temples like he had a headache. The will, it separates the estate based on individual merit, he said reluctantly, finally breaking the silence. It mentions a bank account with $250,000 allocated for each of you. And what about me? I felt my chest tighten painfully as I braced myself for whatever came next. My father avoided my gaze, shifting slightly in his seat. You have to earn it. Your grandfather wanted to see how much you cared about the family before he gave you anything. What do you mean earn it? I shot back, my voice rising. I have always been here, I just wasn't part of it. Am I supposed to just show up with flowers every holiday and pretend everything is okay? Grandfather wanted to know if you were willing to invest in the family, my brother said, his voice edged. He thought it was more important than just giving money away. I struggled to process what they were saying. Invest, what does that mean? What do I need to do? A little extra love and care or a perfect attendance record at family events? It's ridiculous. My voice cracked, the weight of it all pressing heavily on my chest. Those were his rules. My sister slammed her palm on the table, her frustration evident. If you want what he's left you, you need to play by his rules. It's not our fault. Is this what you all were meeting about? I shot a gaze at my brother and sister, realization dawning. You two already accepted the terms. This is unfair. Maybe if you had bothered to show interest while he was alive, Mia, maybe then things would have turned out different for you. My sister snapped, making me want to shrivel back in humiliation. I felt the tears swimming in my eyes again, angry and hurt. My father raised his hand, trying to regain control. The investment doesn't just have to be financial. Grandfather valued effort too. Things like community service, helping others. Does that mean I have to prove myself to all of you, to the world, that I'm worthy of being part of my family? My hands shook and I was almost dizzy with anger. That is so far from being fair, and if the investment I should be concerned about is about building a persona, then I don't want any part of this at all. How can you say that? My mother's voice trembled slightly. This is so much more than just money. We are a family, a family. What kind of family makes someone earn their way in? I stood up abruptly, causing my chair to scrape against the floor, echoing in the silence. This isn't how families work. You all chose to be his favorite while I was tossed aside like an unwanted toy. And now he's dead, and it's my fault that I was never given a place at the table. We still love you, Mia, my mother said softly, though her words felt like empty comfort, submerged in the sting of betrayal. The fire in my chest did not let up. The heat of rage and hurt coursed through every part of me. Love isn't enough, not now, not after this. I turned to leave, but as soon as I placed my hand on the doorframe, my brother called out, Mia, wait. But I didn't wait. I couldn't. The moment I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap in the face, sharp and stinging as tears poured from my eyes. I felt small but determined. This was not a game I was willing to play. I was tired of being the family's secret, cut off from every part of who they were. I shut the door behind me with a forceful thud, the sound reverberating like the final nail in a coffin. I thought I heard my mother call my name again, but I didn't turn back. The stars twinkled in the dark sky, distant and unfathomable, and as I made my way down the path from our house, I could feel a change settling inside me. This would not be the end for me. There would be no acceptance of being unloved or unwanted anymore. I stopped to breathe in the fragrant night air deep, filled my lungs, and looked back at the house one last time, the light shining like a lighthouse in the chaos of my emotions. I felt only one thing now, the burning need for revenge. There were plots to be unspooled, truths to be revealed, and I would not rest until I earned my place in the family on my terms. With steely resolve, I continued walking down the path, my heart pounding, not for the first time that night, but charged with determination. There were battles yet to come, and this was just the beginning. The night fell heavy over Cedar Valley, the oppressive silence of the family home amplifying the tension coiled within me like a tightly wound spring. I could hear the faint ticking of the clock in the hallway, each tick echoing in my ears like a countdown to the inevitable confrontation that had been brewing beneath our roof for months. I clenched my fists, the cool metal of the family heirloom bracelet digging into my wrist, reminding me of everything that had been stolen from me, my rightful place in this family, the love I thought was unconditional, and even the inheritance that was casually tossed aside like yesterday's trash. The shadows in the dimly lit living room stretched and danced across the walls, almost mocking me as I steeled myself for the storm that was about to break. My mother was in the kitchen, pots clanging, the smell of freshly baked lasagna wafting through the air, mingling with the anxious tension swirling in my stomach. "Mia," my mother called, her voice bright and cheerful, a stark contrast to what my heart felt. "Dinner is ready, come sit the table." I took a deep breath, pushing my insecurities and the anger bubbling just beneath my surface down into the depths of my mind. "Yeah, I'll be there in a second," I called back, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes as I walked into the dining room, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. My brother was already at the table, scrolling through his phone while half-heartedly setting down plates. He didn't even look up when I entered. It was as if I were invisible, a mere shadow passing through his world, and the thought made my blood boil. I kept my voice even as I nudged his shoulder. "Can you help me with the silverware? You know it's always a disaster if I end up doing it alone." He finally looked up, annoyed. Fine, but I don't understand why this is such a big deal. It's just dinner." I bit my tongue, swallowing down the retort that burned on my lips. It was so typical of him to underestimate everything that mattered to me. "It's not just dinner," I said carefully, my voice low yet intense. "It's our family. It's about coming together like we always used to." He rolled his eyes, grabbing the fork while the corners of his mouth twitched, likely holding back a snide comeback. I hoped my tone had planted a seed of remorse in him, but deep down, I knew it was pointless. My parents had given him all the attention, all the favors, leaving me to wallow in the shadows. Tonight, though, that was going to change. When my mother finally came into the dining room, fresh from the kitchen and sweeping her hands across her apron, she wore a wide grin that didn't quite match mine. "Dinner is going to be fabulous. I put your favorite spices in the lasagna, Mia. I want us all to enjoy this meal together like old times." A lump formed in my throat. We hadn't had a family dinner in ages, not since the enormous fight over the inheritance, the very topic that made my heart race and my hands shake. The aroma of the lasagna wafted past me, tantalizing and bittersweet. It served as a reminder of the love that had once been, a facade now stained with secrecy and betrayal. "Great," I managed, my voice cracking slightly as I watched her. She was blissfully unaware of the tangled web of lies and favoritism that hung over our family like a storm cloud. "Did you put the green peppers in?" I couldn't help but probe softly, searching for a sign of care. She paused, her brow furrowing slightly as she thought back. "Oh, I didn't know you liked them," she finally admitted, oblivious to my frustration. "I thought your brother loved it better without." The implied preference stung, a deliberate cut dancing on the edge of her naive innocence. Maybe she thought it was nothing, but I felt the betrayal seep into my veins. "Yeah, it's fine," I said through gritted teeth, forcing a tight smile that was both painful and unyielding. Just then my father strode in, the weight of his presence filling the room. The air shifted and his confident stride left no room for doubt. He was the patriarch, the one who held the strings to our family's legacy. Well, 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 look at you all," he exclaimed, beaming as though we were a picturesque family again. "Are we ready to eat?" "Almost, Dad," I replied, my heart pounding heavily against my ribs. I was sick of the pretense. "Can we talk before we eat?" The room fell into an uneasy silence, and I could feel my brother shift uncomfortably in his seat, his brows furrowing slightly. My father raised an eyebrow, curiosity mixed with irritation flickering over his face. "Talk about what, Mia?" he asked, crossing his arms as though preparing for a debate. "Just everything. I think it's time we all address what happened with the inheritance." My voice trembled slightly, emboldened by the fire that had ignited within me. My mother's smile faltered as her delightful cookery rattled against the wall of tension that now filled the air. "Do we have to bring this up now?" she pressed, her voice rising slightly as panic began to set in. "It's just dinner." "This is not just dinner," I shot back, my throat tightening as I felt the weight of their disapproval descend. "This is our lives we are discussing. This is about what you have chosen for us, how you have treated me like I am not even your daughter." I could see my brother's uncomfortable fidgeting escalate, his face turning a shade of pale while my father's brow furrowed deeper. "Mia, do not raise your voice," my father warned, his tone clipped. "This is hardly the appropriate time to bring such matters to the table." I could feel each heartbeat echoing in my ears. I had pushed too far, but I had to keep going. "What do you mean hardly appropriate? You cut me off without any notice when you handed over the family estate to my brother." The words tasted bitter on my tongue, and I watched as the color drained from my mother's face. "We did not mean to betray you, dear," she murmured, her voice softer, almost pleading. "It was never about favoritism." "Not about favoritism," I spat, my voice rising in tandem with my rising fury. "Then why did you leave me out entirely when it came to the inheritance? You expect me to just accept it, to pretend that you too didn't choose him over me, that I'm not a part of this family anymore?" I glanced at my brother, whose eyes widened in response, fueling my resolve. "I helped run the family business. I was there through everything. We worked together for our family, and yet," I trailed off, the tremor in my voice barely containable, "you all turned away and handed everything to him as if I did not exist at all." The echoes of my hurt filled the air, palpable and suffocating. My father inhaled sharply, a muscle in his jaw flexing as he struggled to contain his emotions. You know how hard I worked to ensure this family was taken care of. Your brother needed the responsibility more than you did. His irresponsibility is why I was left to pick up the slack when you didn't want to deal with him." I shot back. Tears welled up in my eyes, not from sadness but from the fierceness of a burning sense of injustice. "Don't you see how unfair this is? I have sacrificed so much. I was a dutiful daughter while he was off partying and wasting his opportunities." The tension in the room thickened, almost suffocating, and for a moment silence enveloped us like a heavy cloak. "This is not the time, Mia," my mother interjected, her voice strained as the desperation crept in. "You are being unreasonable." The hurt radiated off me like heat waves, each word cutting deeper than any knife could. Unreasonable. "You refuse to acknowledge your choices. What about my choices?" I looked around the table, my heart racing. "I get that my brother is your favorite, but I still deserve to be seen. I deserve validation. Look at me." I gestured wildly. "Don't I count for anything anymore?" My brother's faint sigh echoed throughout the room, the tension palpable as his fingers lightly tapped against the table, an instinctive reaction to soothe the suddenly explosive atmosphere. "Maybe we should all take a breath," he suggested, though I could hear the quaver in his voice. "Let's just eat." And no, I interrupted, the heat in my chest flaring. "This isn't just about dinner. This is about history and betrayal, feelings crushed under the weight of money. It's about how you two have made me feel cast aside, and you expect me to sit here and play happy families." I watched my parents exchange panicked glances, and the pit in my stomach churned with determination. "You made me feel like an outsider in my own family. And for what? A few dollars." The tension thickened and hung in the air like an unwelcome guest. "Do you know how much that house is worth? It's worth a fortune, but to me it should have been a home. It should have been shared." A silence draped over us, so thick I almost couldn't breathe. "You will regret this, Mia," my father finally said, his voice colliding with steel as he leaned forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "You think you can just walk in and demand respect, favor? It does not work that way." "What way does it work?" I shot back, fear and rage swirling in equal measure. "By treating me like I am invisible, by handing everything over to him before I even get to speak." Every moment felt electric, a prelude to an explosion. I refused to let this go without standing up for myself. I stood tall, refusing to be backed down. Silence enveloped us, broken only by the sound of my heart racing louder with each passing second. Then, my voice low and deceptively calm, I challenged, "What happens now?" My parents exchanged glances once more, and a spark of realization flickered in their expressions, almost like the light emerging through cracks in a stormy night sky. It was within that moment that I understood their fear, the dread of losing control over the lineage they had supposedly nurtured. "You think you can just waltz in and vomit all over our dinner table, demanding repairs on broken bonds?" My mother shot back, a tremor lacing her voice as she stood tall. "This is exactly why you haven't been hardwired to receive anything." We all froze, the dichotomy of the moment hanging heavily over us. I felt my heart drop, the words ripping through me, leaving unfathomable emotional bruises. My hands were shaking, fists trembling at my side as I took a step back, my mind racing, energy boiling beneath my skin as I struggled not to react. There was one thing I was certain of: this family dinner had been laid bare, and there was no room for pretense anymore. "I'll show you, I will," I muttered under my breath, the anger consuming me. "You will see just how forgotten I can become, and I will take that as motivation." I turned sharply, storming out of the dining room, the slamming of the door behind me echoing the decisive sound of shattered family ties. The silence that followed in my wake held a weight that crushed all remnants of hope, only making my resolve more profound. I was determined to not be treated as a mere shadow anymore, and as I paced the empty hallway I felt a promise surge through me, a vow to not only reclaim my worth but ensure that this family truly understood how injustice felt. One way or another, the room was eerily quiet as I stood before my parents, the tension practically vibrating in the air. The dining room table was still set for the evening meal, remnants of last night's dinner scattered across the surface. A bitter aftertaste lingered in my mouth as I recalled the call that had shattered any pretense of family harmony. My mother had received a letter, a simple piece of paper that would reshape our entire family. I felt my hands clenching and unclenching at my sides, the smooth surface of the table pressing into my palms as I braced for the inevitable confrontation. My brother leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, a smug grin painted on his face. I could almost feel the heat rising off him, a stark contrast to the chill that snaked down my spine. "So I guess you finally got the letter," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I hope you're ready for the truth." "What truth?" I shot back, my voice stronger than the tremor I felt within. Despite the knot tightening in my stomach, I refused to let him see how much his words affected me. My sister had been silent since I arrived, her gaze darting nervously between my parents and me. It was almost as if she couldn't decide whose side she was on, which only added to the tension in the room. My father paced, a habit he picked up whenever he was on edge. Each step echoed on the hardwood floor as he moved back and forth, his jaw set tight, the corded muscles in his neck showing just how wound up he was. The air thickened with resentment, regret, and unspoken words. "You think you deserve it just because you always play the victim." My brother continued, an almost sing-song tone in his voice, mocking and taunting. "I'm the one who has always worked for Dad. I've gone above and beyond." My mother's eyes narrowed at his words, but instead of rebuking him, she remained quiet, an unsettling silence hanging between us. I wanted to shake her awake, to demand she stand up for me, to remind us all I was part of this family too, her daughter. You only care about the money, I shot back defensively, hoping to strike some nerve, but my brother just laughed under his breath, a sound that grated against my already frayed nerves. You think it's all about money, it's about loyalty, about who's been there for Dad. The words hung between us as if they had weight, a pendulum swinging between favoritism and bitter resentment. Oh, so you're claiming loyalty now, huh? Just because you've always been Dad's little sheriff. I could feel the sting of their shared laughter. Every time they pulled that act, it cut into me deeper than any cut could. I took a breath, feeling heat rising in my cheeks as my eyes locked onto my father. Dad, is it true what he said? Is this all about who you choose to favor? His lips pressed together, a thin line of frustration marring his otherwise stoic face. Mia, I'm trying to sort through this. This is so incomprehensible. I couldn't suppress my snort of disbelief. Incomprehensible. Is that what you call throwing away 28 years of family for one letter? Memories of family outings, laughter over birthday cakes, and even little whispered secrets behind closed doors flooded my mind, only to dissipate into the cold reality of this moment. You know, it is more complicated than that. My father barked, and for a moment he seemed like a stranger, revealing an anger I had never before witnessed. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, but I willed them away with a blink. I just want to understand why you chose him over me. My voice cracked, and I could feel the warmth behind my cheeks. The tears were still there, almost pushing their way through, each pulse in my throat sending a reminder of how vulnerable this entire situation made me feel, how betrayed. Because I didn't think I'd have to choose. He snapped back, frustration bubbling over from his carefully controlled demeanor. At that moment, my heart raced with a mix of sadness and anger. In my mind, I pictured that letter my mother clutched so tightly in her hands, the way its flimsy paper somehow contained our entire future and shattered our family's unity. Everything we work for means nothing to you. I blinked rapidly, feeling betrayed even further. You could have stood by me. My sister stepped forward, her voice trembling. We are all in this together. Can't you see how we're being torn apart? Only because you let them tear you apart. I shot back, feeling a rise of power spill within me, even as I felt violated by my family's dynamics. Mia, my mother finally spoke, her soft tone bewildering amidst the chaos. This is not about picking sides, it's about what is fair. I felt my stomach churn at her implication of fairness. Fairness. Was it fair to let my brother steal the majority of our inheritance because he was the favorite? Fair, I echoed incredulously, turning my laser focus to my mother. You mean fair like how he always gets the new car while I'm driving a rust bucket? Or fair like how you ignore my struggles to make it in Cedar Valley while he struts around acting like he can afford to be picky about a job? My voice rose higher, cracking like the weight of my grievances. Silence draped heavily over us, broken only by the soft ticking of the clock on the wall, each second dragging out like an eternity. My brother opened his mouth to speak, but I couldn't let him. No, listen. You think this is a game? I've spent years feeling less than you. You both have treated me like an afterthought. Well, it's time I demanded a seat at this table. I could feel my breath quicken, the adrenaline coursing through me as I stood taller, my chest puffing with newfound determination. We are all siblings here, but let's be real. You are treating me like a mere footnote. Well, guess what? You should never underestimate what a footnote can do. My brother's face twisted in disbelief, and I detected the surprise flickering behind my father's eyes. They had never seen me lose my cool before. What is this really about, Mia? My sister finally asked softly, stepping forward in an attempt perhaps to anchor the chaos swirling around us. She looked genuinely confused, like I was the foreign planet in this solar system of family drama. Is it just about money? I found myself hesitating, pondering the impact of their words. Could it truly be only about the money? It's not just money, I burst out. It's about respect, about not being treated as if my worth is tied to a bank balance or a family business. It's about being recognized for who I am, not just who they choose to promote. My heart raced as I fought to regain control by grounding myself. It felt good to verbalize the anger that had been brewing inside me, like a balloon that had finally popped after inflated too long. My grandfather entered the room unexpectedly, his brow furrowed in confusion at the palpable tension before him. What is the commotion? He asked, the lines of worry deepening on his weathered face. Can't we have one peaceable meal without you all tearing each other apart? It felt like the air shifted, drowning my burning words in regret. I hadn't wanted him to witness this fracture in our family. It's nothing, grandfather, I said hastily, yet my tone came out sharper than I intended. Just a misunderstanding. My sister caught my eye, her pupils wide with concern. It's fine really, I insisted, cutting her off. The struggle for control felt like a battle, a tug-of-war between love and resentment. My grandfather softened, understanding flickering in his gaze. You are family, and family means something, he implored quietly, stepping further into the kitchen. Family is about sticking together, no matter how hard it gets. Do not let the shadows of money and conflict tear you apart. Then why doesn't anyone listen to me? I blurted out, a thin veneer of composure stripping away, leaving raw emotion exposed. The roundness of my voice lost its strength, wavering slightly as I caught their eyes staring back at me unmoving. Why am I always the one who has to fight for a little recognition? My father stepped back, as if the words had physically hit him. Genuine realization kindled in his eyes, but then just as quickly flickered out. We can talk about this rationally. His voice took on a sharp edge, disconnecting from my outburst. I need to think, we need time to figure out what happens next. He started moving toward the exit, as if retreating to his study because he could not bear to deal with the fallout. Time? What about all the time I've spent feeling unseen? A letter means nothing unless we deal with the truth of what it represents, I shouted after him, but the door to his study slammed shut. Instantly the sound echoed back, reverberating through me, the finality of it reverberating like a drumbeat of despair. Tears finally spilled from my eyes, rolling down my cheeks as I felt the walls around me close in. Mia, my sister whispered, stepping toward me, but I turned away before she could reach me. I didn't want comfort, I wanted acknowledgement, to feel seen and valued like a member of this family. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was suffocating, stuck in this overwhelming wave of betrayal, anger, and deep-seated hurt. This isn't over, I said firmly, a new resolve taking root inside me as I turned from them all. Not by a long shot. My heart thundered in my chest as I made my way toward the front door, feeling the weight of their eyes lingering behind me. I glanced back one last time, each of them frozen in shock, struggling to comprehend just how far I was willing to go. And then I opened the door and stepped out into the fading light, the cool evening air washing over me, a wave of clarity and determination igniting a fire that had been smoldering far too long. The conflict was far from resolved. In fact, I felt the storm brewing just beneath my skin. A sense of purpose surged through me, lighting up the darkness of doubt. I was ready to take back what was mine, starting with that letter.